All right, guys, I thought this would be a great time to talk about the 2023 Bronco Raptor. We'll call it, we're getting really close to a one-year review, 5,600 miles on the 2023 Bronco Raptor. And we just got back from a hunting trip, which was successful. We killed a 10-point buck. Nothing huge, but it was fun because I got to take my son out, and that was the most exciting part about this hunting trip for this year. And let's dive into this. So, believe it or not, all the mud caked onto this thing, and it is caked onto this thing, is honestly all just from our dirt road by our hunting property. We had a lot of fun this last week. Check this out. It is dirty. I mean, I've never had this thing this dirty. Our road was so bad on this trip. But regardless, we've taken this thing to tracking. We've taken this thing to the dunes multiple times. We have recovered deer out of the woods with this thing. This is truly, I will say this, of all the fun vehicles I've owned, this is one of the most fun vehicles I have owned, I have to say. And this week was so much fun taking this thing, trying to recover some deer and some back nasty wooded property we've got. And this thing did awesome. It is truly, for this weekend, it was almost like a big side-by-side. The downside is, I would say, trying to sneak this thing through some tight trails. It is wide because, you know, the extra width versus a standard Bronco. It is a little wider, so if you are trying to get in some tight stuff, that is one downside. But the nice thing about the width and the extra suspension travel is the articulation and just getting over obstacles. It's incredible. We're gonna wash this thing up, and I'm just gonna kind of give you guys my thoughts of our ownership of this. So let's clean this thing up real quick, and then we can kind of talk about fuel economy, performance, quality, COVID, I call it COVID build quality. How does this thing compare to vehicles in the past I've owned? And just kind of give you guys my thoughts and perspective on this. I'm not paid by Ford or any other car manufacturer, so I'm gonna give you my honest perspective on this vehicle. All right, we just filled up the tank here. There we go. We're gonna do a little road trip tomorrow. We're gonna see what the Bronco Raptor can get on about a 400-mile loop tomorrow. Let's reset the fuel economy here. It's been a while since I've done a trip like this. Let's see. Trip one, so the last tank I got 16.2. Reset. Let's see what we get tomorrow. Here you can see 5,120 miles. Let's do it. Do the old double click method. All right, let's see what we got now for fuel economy hand calculated. Okay, so let's do the hand calculated. We are at 270.5 miles. Let's see what the hand calculated comes out to. So hand calculated 14.78 miles per gallon, computer 15. Not terrible. Just for reference, I was getting about, and I was cruising at about 80 miles per hour cruise pretty much most of the trip with a little bit of seat time sitting around. Waiting on traffic. Okay, we're gonna do something a little bit different today. We're gonna do this video at night because I want to kind of show you some of the cool distinguishing features with the Bronco Raptor versus just the standard Bronco Sport, or even like the Wild Track and some of the other versions. There's a lot of different lighting options with the Broncos, but this has the signature Bronco Raptor ambers around the edge, your 3 lights in the middle of the grille. You've got your mirror lights, side marker lights, and you've got your 3 lights across the back of the lift gate. Just kind of want to give you a little bit of an overview of what the exterior lighting looks like here at night. Okay, so what's my verdict 1 year in? What would I say? 5,500 miles. Let me confirm. Let's just see how many miles we got on this thing. Sorry, 5,668 miles. What's my thoughts? This is, like I said, the most fun vehicle I've owned. It's like a big toy. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. It would be interesting of having a standard Bronco before this, just to compare the differences, the trade-offs, what I like, what I don't like. I've said this in many other videos before. The 3-liter EcoBoost is my favorite EcoBoost engine Ford makes because it's so playful. It revs up and it's a much more free-spirited engine than the 3.5. It feels like a 2.7 liter on steroids. The 2.7 is a really spirited engine, and the 3 liter is just a higher horsepower version of that exact same engine. I love that. The other thing that really surprised me, so many people talk about, they're bummed out that this Bronco Raptor did not get the 10R80 transmission that's in the F-150s behind us. 5,600 miles, I've not had one trans hiccup. No weird skip shifts, no weird flares, no confusion. It's always in the right spot. This is hands down the best transmission I've had of any Ford vehicle as far as weird little anomalies of how it performs. But you know what's funny now that I'm thinking about this? When we had our Explorer ST, same motor, same transmission, phenomenal. Had no problems with it, and it felt amazing. I really like the motor, I really like the transmission. Fuel economy. I'm gonna include some footage. I just did about a 280 mile drive loop earlier this week. I think I got just shy of 15 miles per gallon. I'll put that in here. And then I just did another 300 miles in the last few days on a hunting trip. And I think we're at, let me see where we're at on this one, 15 miles per gallon over 276 miles. I don't think that's too bad considering we had some deer recovery, a lot of four-wheel drive actually, just because the roads were so horrible and some of the tracks, 2 tracks we had to take this thing back were so bad. I got to use 4 high and I got to use 4 auto on this trip, and I was playing around with the front and rear locker and the disconnect just because I wanted to see how it impacted the traction. It was some wet, sloppy, nasty weather we had for this hunting trip this year. The BFG KO2s, I've always been a fan of these tires because are there better tires out here? For sure. But off the showroom floor with a production vehicle that's good in the snow, rain, mud, and quiet, this is my favorite all-terrain tire of any vehicle I've had so far. The DuraTrack I had on my trimmer was better in mud, I think a little better in snow and a little better in ice, maybe even a little bit better in rain, but the trade-off was ride quality, fuel economy, and vibration. I hated it. I'm not a DuraTrack tire fan at all. I'll be curious to see how the KO3s are versus these. Suspension off-road, phenomenal. Suspension on-road, phenomenal. Suspension a little bit mudding. I mean, it's really hard to see what that would do. Still really good. All the drive modes work really well. The exhaust on this, it sounds pretty decent. Personally, I think this has got more of a refined exhaust sound than the F-150 Raptor, the Gen 3 3.5. This has got more of a, I don't know how to explain it. It just doesn't have that deep gurgle. It's a little more BMW-esque. I'll be curious to see how this 3-liter exhaust system sounds versus the RHO 3-liter exhaust system that we'll have here soon. The only complaints I'd have, and it wasn't even a problem, I don't particularly like how when you open these second row window doors, it's like the window kind of hangs up there and kind of like, this one's actually feels pretty good today. It goes up and down, but we've had a few times where we've had these windows, they go up and they pop right back down. It's like it loses calibration. We had to take it to the dealer, and since they just redid it recently, it's been working fine. But now let's try this one and see if this window kind of pops. Yeah, see how it caught? This one is kind of acting a little goofy. I don't particularly like that. It's not a big deal. The thing opens and closes. It just doesn't feel super refined there. Let's see how the front door, nope, perfect. Like I said, kind of dark right now, so kind of hard to see. Interior lighting's not too bad. These seats are awesome. I really like these seats. Floor mats are great. Grab handles are good. It's got small storage in it as expected. You know, it's a mid-size vehicle. Second row, you can kind of see it's still dirty inside, but this thing's got 2 car seats back there. I have no problem with putting the boys in here, and this has been really good. Floor mat coverage is decent. But overall, like I said, I'm really impressed with this. The one thing you got to keep in mind, and I've got my winter wheels and tires back on this thing, is, man, these things do kick a ton of crap up on the side of the vehicle, especially back in this area. You can tell this is why Ford wanted to make this as like a replaceable panel, because this area just gets demolished by stuff coming off the front wheel. You almost need to run a much bigger mud flap, something that's going to kick out and probably even a little lower. I'm going to look into that. I'm going to be putting this thing into storage here soon anyhow. I don't plan on driving this thing through the snow in the wintertime, so I don't really care if it, you know, I'll deal with that next spring. What would be my main complaint on this thing? I'd say the biggest complaint is it doesn't have the premium features of the F-150 Raptor. but you also know that going into it. So I don't even know if I'd really call it a complaint. Just the F-150 Raptor, I think, is just a little more refined vehicle. Off-roadness, though, this thing destroys the F-150 Raptor. I mean, for my uses, I think it's way more fun. In the dunes, it's more fun. The approach angle up front, the clearance in the rear is more fun. The suspension feels great on this thing. It feels very well balanced when you do any just moderate jumping and stuff at the dunes. It is smaller inside, as expected. I would say one of the complaints I do have, and I talked about this in another video, is inside. I don't like how the plastic in this back area, it kind of scratches a little bit. If you just put anything up against the sides, it kind of leaves some marks. Fuel economy. I feel like pretty consistently we get between 15 and 16 miles per gallon with this. Hand calculated is always fairly close as well. When you're on the highway, 80 miles an hour, let's just say cruise control, dude, this thing spins up the RPMs, so it's definitely something different than what I'm used to. I think this thing on the highway at those speeds is 2,500 RPMs or something. I mean, it really is whizzing. But the performance of this, it's a blast to drive. Some recommended upgrades, you know, I do think for my boys, we put these little grab handles up here. I think it makes it a little easier for them to get in. The stereo system in this thing is pretty average. This is the lower version. It doesn't have the high level stereo, so it's not as great as some of the other trim packages, but it still suffices. It's good enough in a lot of ways. Lighting, there's not a ton of interior lighting, but it's good enough. What I think would be a really fun vehicle to have is, I really need a truck bed. So this makes this more of a toy, and we ran into this weekend on our hunting trip. We get a deer, we gotta get this thing out of there. I didn't have a hitch carrier on the back. I personally like having a truck bed for moments like that, especially when you got a lot of gear and we're doing off-roading and hunting and stuff like that. Man, a Ford Ranger Raptor on 37s would be the ultimate, I think, truck for me or off-road vehicle, because I like the size of the mid-size vehicle in hunting better than a full-size, but I gotta have a truck bed. And that's where I think that vehicle would be ultimate. In the current state, the Ranger's a decent truck. I don't mind the interior and whatnot. I just wish it didn't have 33-inch tires. I wish it had 37s like this. It'd make it better for me off-road. For me, I prefer the full-size suspension of this and all of our uses with this a little bit more. Yeah, I think this would be so cool if this thing just had a little bit smaller bed in the back, like a Ranger Raptor, or a Ranger Raptor on 37s would be about the ultimate mid-size off-road kind of fun vehicle. I don't know why Ford personally didn't do that. I don't know if they're worried about it cannibalizing the F-150 Raptor sales, but I'm just personally not a big fan of that. Ranger Raptor is an okay truck and it serves its purpose, but I really wish it did have 37s from the factory like this thing does. Overall, guys, I would highly recommend this vehicle. I've been really impressed with it. I would buy it again in a heartbeat, especially now that they're doing some discounts on these. I think they're back to where this vehicle makes a lot of sense. And if you really think about it, the only competitor it has is the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, but the Rubicon is still kind of in a class of its own. It is really like your extreme rock crawler. And if you don't do extreme rock crawling, I think in many ways this is pretty far superior. If you're a mall crawler, if just day-to-day livability, ride quality, performance, I love this thing. I've been very happy with it. I also like this thing's got the aluminum body, so if you live in a northern climate that uses salt in the roads in the wintertime, this is gonna hold up really nice. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would definitely give you 2 thumbs up on the Bronco Raptor. Happy to have this thing. I'm excited to take this thing off-road and compare this to our RHO soon. Hey, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to give me a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.